So welcome to the presentation of our action research study for the summer of 2017. My name is Claudia Coe, and I am presenting with David Flood, Jacqueline Hilty, and Dan Truitt. The agenda for our presentation is we're going to cover Unit 1, which establishes our research question in the literature, Unit 2, which talks about our data collection plan, Unit 3, that discusses the analysis of the data, and Unit 4 that is the findings, recommendations, and final thoughts. So first, our research question. Our research question is, what do student leaders do outside the classroom that makes them successful? So a couple key terms here. We defined a student leader as an individual who is on an executive board or a university activity board of a club, or is the captain of his or her athletic sports team. And then we differentiated that from student involvement, which describes students that are involved in an extracurricular activity outside the classroom, such as a club, job, sport, volunteer position on campus. I'm going to review the literature now. So we had 4 themes that we investigated when we looked for articles. So the first is teaching leadership skills, student development theory, diversity issues, and student involvement. So the first theme is teaching leadership skills. So the first thing that we found was that leadership is actually described in the literature as a necessary activity for all, not just a select few students to partake in, because it is the highest ranked skill that students should leave college with, according to the article from 2008. In addition, obtaining a degree is not just about going to class. It's also about taking advantage of the experiences outside the classroom. There was one university that cited that they want their students to study abroad, do an internship, and also conduct research with faculty. And also related to this topic, emotional intelligence came up, talking about helping students manage not only their own emotions, but emotions when they work with others. And self-motivated students in the classroom can later present themselves as self-directed professionals when they enter the boardroom. So that transfers to career-related aspects. So the summary of this first theme that we found in our literature review is that leadership is a desirable, teachable skill that college students should leave college with. On to our second theme. It was all about college student development theory. Basically, the first study that we looked at was from 2016, so very recent, and it established that there was actually a relationship between student leadership and entrance into adulthood, and that was all signified by a pyramid that had adult development, leader development, and leader learning as 3 interdependent points of a pyramid that described growth. So that was really interesting to see visually. And then second, educational entities can extend beyond the classroom and should extend beyond the classroom. That was a point made in 2012. And since then, they found that soft skills in particular, like managing your own time that students learn how to do, learning how to get along with others, like roommates, for example, or teammates, and also dealing with setbacks that can be as simple as not getting the class that you want. Those are all important, just as important as reading and writing skills that are more like basic and more in the classroom. So the summary of this theme is that we wanted to direct our attention to understanding student developmental stages and levels. And then third, diversity issues to address. The first one is about how identity and privilege influence students and how they experience the university setting. Oftentimes, leadership positions are dominated by privileged identities because barriers exist that prevent other students from pursuing opportunities. There was various studies that investigated particular identities like African American and Latino students, and they had different success factors such as their performance in individual courses and retention from semester to semester, and these were all checkpoints for practitioners to look at when they were advising students. And Rodriguez and Noguera from 2015, they pointed out that one size does not fit all. Relationships especially are important for Latinx, which means Latino and Latino students. It's more salient to that culture, is what they found. And then lastly, the last point for this third theme is that student learning outcomes are influenced by environmental factors. And these could include the athletics, health, and role models that are in the environment, as well as financial factors like financial aid, family responsibilities. Those all play with like your time availability as a student. And Wilson et al. In 2014, they found that also the discipline of study influences leaders. So if you're in a very taxing major like engineering, you might not benefit from positions that demand a lot of your time, which is kind of like counterintuitive to the idea that leadership will like solve all your problems. And then the last, but certainly not least, theme that we found was about student involvement in general. And the first study from 2012 investigated different campus events like guest speakers, musicians, things that are outside of the classroom, all co-curricular activities, and those actually related positively to performance inside the classroom, measured by grade point average or GPA. And the last thing that we found was from 2013, and that suggested that student satisfaction also increases when students are more involved on campus. So that summarizes our literature review. And this all brings us to our just final point of situating our question within the literature. We wanted to kind of take this opportunity in this class to investigate this under a smaller microscope, see, we see these students every day in our work and in our practice, but we want to see like what makes them, want to identify a list of things that makes them successful.
Hello, this is David Flood here to present Unit 2, where we're going to discuss the researchers, the informants, the context, the data collection plan, how the interviews went, the artifacts collected, the observations that were recorded, and we will discuss how we ensure credibility, trustworthiness, and triangulation. So who are the researchers? The researchers are the Group 1 participants that came together for this presentation: David Flood, Jacqueline Hilty, Claudia Coe, and Dan Truitt. One thing I loved about this group is that we all brought different perspectives together, being from different aspects of higher education, and we are all first-time researchers, which is very important so nobody's ideas overshadow someone else's. So who were the informants? The informants were faculty and staff whom we interviewed that work within different areas of higher education and student affairs. One thing that we focused on with this in our academic success was having a GPA of a 3.2 and higher. All of the informants are employed at University X, but they are experts in their actual field with a master's degree or higher, and they all have different years, various years of experience in higher education. So what is the context? An American college or university campus that will be referred to as University X throughout this entire presentation and the paper. Many leadership programs want to diversify and outreach to students that may not be represented or benefiting from the full experience. Another thing we discussed is how leadership is a top skill that employers and hiring committees are looking for. Many full-time students are also employed full-time and commute to campus for class. So this makes you just think about how they can be so involved with just their limited time. So our data collection plan, first we observed, then we interviewed, and then we collected the artifacts. We all did it in the exact same order. We used guiding questions together, but as the interviews went along, we allowed the interviews to shape the way we went. And we did this not just for convenience, but it was just a logical order that we discussed and we came together and believed that this order would have got us the best results. We interviewed 4 informants from University X and informant A, B, C, and D. So how do we ensure credibility, trustworthiness, and maintain triangulation in our data collection? What we did is we checked the backgrounds and relevant work of all the individuals whom we will be interviewing, and we attempted to make sure that we had a diverse group to collect the data and information from. In terms of credibility, we recruited professionals we not only knew, but because it was convenient, but because we thought they represented a diverse mix of perspectives on leadership on a college campus. In regards to trustworthiness, we did not ask the members to check our transcriptions for accuracy, but we all taped the audios or took notes. And finally, with triangulation, Just like the gym example, we tried to collect data using the guide so that any overlaps would be triangulated.
Okay, this is Jacqueline Hilty, and we're going to go over Unit 3. Within this unit, we're going to talk about data analysis, emergent themes, ensuring credibility, trustworthiness, and transferability in analysis. Empathetic moments, or the aha moment, is the experience of sudden intuition perceptive or of insight into research. This is the moment where you make connections between two things when conducting action research. Categorizing is to arrange data into classes that are similar in structure and nature, i.e. taking two topics that you find, two surprising moments perhaps, when you're doing your action research and connecting them and then coding them to be similar. What emergent themes did you find during your research? During our emergent themes, we found that we need to focus our efforts on achievable goals, and that's how the students would continue to lead. Prepare for the demands of senior year, meaning throughout your collegiate career, we found in our research that students that are student leaders usually wear many hats. And often by the time they become a senior and they're trying to manage school, work, home, jobs, extracurriculars, that there's not enough space to only do as many things as they would like. From this, they usually need to acquire a transferable skills. For example, a trait they might learn in their internship, such as hard work, dedication, organization, and possibly public speaking, would then be transferred to something else, such as volunteer work, when they need to go present an award, or truthfully anything outside activities that resonated within the leadership platform. We also found that it was difficult for them to navigate the campus social landscape effectively until they became a leader. Leaders are negotiators, often led by a passion that's a metaphorical compass that allows them to pursue objectives outside of academia and then mold them into student leaders throughout the campus. And finally, we found that it was a very common theme from all of our informants that student leaders had to have passion. The passion always had to outweigh the struggle to be a student leader. Our color coding reference table you can also be found on the left-hand side. Green is for positive, red is for negative, yellow is for neutral. Orange is a theme of leaving a legacy of positive years of experience within the campus. Blue is theme of teaching and learning and supervision, and purple is theme of leaders as navigators, led by passion as a more metaphorical compass. How did you ensure credibility, trustworthiness, and transferability by your analysis? For credibility, we use members check to go back and check with our informants to ensure that we quoted them correctly throughout their interview. Trustworthiness was done through credibility, transferability, dependability, and conformity was obtained throughout. And transferability is some of the aspects or themes that are transferable to other contexts that we found from our research. An example of this for transferability of analysis is we found that many of the things and skills that the student leaders had outside of their classrooms was also the skills and attributes that large corporation CEOs and senior leaderships had. For example, public speaking, civil service, a passion and drive to succeed. All these things are very transferable to the corporate world.
Hi, this is Dan Truitt, and in Unit 4, I'm going to discuss how we ensured transferability, discuss the themes that we found with quotes and vignettes, provide the recommendations for practitioners as well as for novice researchers, and provide you with our final thoughts and additional research or actions.